lot of people do start from zero. You're going to have to do a nurture on trying to engage with everybody, building up the excitement, everything like that, and make it a sticky service. People in the market have been hurt a lot. Like, they've been put into programs, they haven't gotten results, they've been given false promises.
How excited I am today to have Eddie on again. We spoke not too long ago, but now we're talking for real about communities. And
Absolutely.
Look, the fight is school, the fight is high levels community, the battle of, we just set up one for a customer on Mighty Networks. It's the rage, right? We even see some of the major gurus going from even affiliate models in high level to affiliate models in school. I mean, there's so much to be said. I know you have got your finger on the pulse, which is cool. So maybe just give us like your over under on like, how do you make money at this stuff?
Well, I mean, that's a very, very good question, because there's so many different models when it comes to like trying to lead people into like a community. And these are like different aspects that we've kind of like been researching and testing out, right? Like, you think of like Facebook groups, right? What was our first initial step with a Facebook group? Get everybody into a free Facebook group, run ads to a free Facebook group, right? And a lot of times what ends up happening, you're actually like losing money on the front end when it comes down to it, because you're spending dollars. You're probably spending $5 to $10 the max in order to get somebody in. But then when you start converting these people, it starts going into the hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars to try to be able to convert one of those people into a high ticket program. So the same thing happens with GHO and even school. People are leading people into a free community. A lot of times they're spending ads in order to do it. Same model like as a Facebook group. But we've really been noticing that a lot of people, there's a way to be able to wash out that spend, right? Like, think about it this way. A lot of high ticket coaches that I know of have been going down into low ticket, $27, $37, $47 products and getting people in. This was like the exact same strategy that I utilized for, Brandon Turner. Like, he had a video sales letter funnel, cost per acquisition was going up. We put a self-liquidating offer in front and we crushed it on the back end with his VSL. So taking those kinds of concepts, we're implementing that kind of stuff into a school model or a GHO, a community model in general, right? Doing a low tickets, offer $27 to $47, having a bump order, and basically washing out your ad spend. So you're getting in paying customers for free. And then once they get into your community, they're going to be consuming the modules inside of your community, right? So they're already going to be in there. They're already going to be communicating with everybody. They're going to already be engaging. And then from there, the next logical progression is like, hey, jump into my group coachings, $197. Hey, jump into my one-on-one coaching. It could be a $3,000 thing. Hey, I see that you do this for other people. Can you do it for me? Do a done for you service, right? So you're technically, the way that we've been seeing it is doing a low ticket community funnel that allows you to wash out your spend, and then everything you get on the back end is absolutely pure profit, because you literally got a paying customer for free.
I like it. My question is probably what a lot of people are saying. Like, okay, sounds easy for you. Mm-hmm. By the way, I think about this all the time. From a community standard strategy, it's always been, hey, I've got an email list, I've got an audience, I've got a whatever existing Facebook group. What do you do if you're starting from zero and like you're like zero power? Like, you have something to give to people, value, hopefully, right? That you think, and again, this doesn't necessarily have to be agency stuff. It could be anything. It could be whatever, power gliders. I don't know. I just made up a term, but what is it that you think you could start with zero and say, instead of just being the guy who's, I got 1,000 people on my email list and they're chomping at the bit to get something done. No, I have no emails. I have no list. I know stuff about something. Now what do I do?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question, because a lot of people do start from zero. And, I've started, I've started Facebook groups inside of a network marketing niche, and nobody knew who I was, and it ended up being very successful, right? But getting people in is where people are going to start getting to know you. But that doesn't answer the question about on the front end, right? Like, how am I going to get these people on the front end to get to know me. You're going to have to do a nurture play, right? Like when you're running the campaigns or when you're trying to market this, like you're still going to have to nurture these people on the front end and getting to know you, right? Like if I didn't have a certain name, that I used to, like certain people that I used to work for, and not shooting those names out there, people wouldn't know who I was, right? So I've actually done like the free play when it comes down to it in order to start, right? So like you get your feet wet, you start doing the free thing, you get them into a one community that's for free. And inside that community, you could actually upsell them, because I think what a lot of people do, they'll do the two community play.
Right.
They'll get people into a free community. Everything in there is free. Nurture them, get them onto a sales call. Hey, come into my bigger community. And that's good. But, like for instance, in school, you're going to be paying for two communities in order to do that, right? You may not have those kinds of fundings, right?
I've
But
opened and closed groups in school because I was like, okay, we've done a free community. I'm done with this. Next. And I think
yeah,
what you're saying is like, that's a skipped opportunity.
yeah. So you'll do sort of like a hybrid, right? Like I know with, especially in school community, school style communities, but I think this is also true with a GHL community as well, is that you charging a monthly fee, and that may be a little bit hard for somebody that nobody knows who you are, right? So what you do is that you could do a hybrid style community, which is it's a free community to join. They may have to do some engagement in order to unlock certain modules, but as they get to know you, there's going to be specific modules in there that they're going to have to pay to play, right? And then on top of that, there may be some private modules that's like, hey, this is going to be a monthly recurring. So you kind of could compact a hybrid model into one community, get people in there with your organic, start asking your friends, whatever you have on social media. You may not have a big email list, but you may have some people on your social media that do follow you. And if your message is consistent, they may want to follow you into the community. And once you already have a good enough thriving community, then you can lock it up and start doing a monthly recurring or however you want to be able to set it up. But I think a hybrid model, and that's kind of like what we're doing right now. We're doing a hybrid model. We're letting people in for free. But then like, hey, you want to be able to get this course? Well, it's going to be $97. You want to be able to get into the coaching, into our group coaching? Well, it's $197. But there's already certain pieces of content there that are free, and some of them you have to be able to engage in order for you to be able to unlock other pieces of content. So it's kind of like a gamification part of it.
So are there people who are just saying, you know what, screw it, if they're not willing to pay me at least $27 or $97 or $47 or whatever the number you come up with, I don't even want them in my community because they're not going to create enough adhesion because they're not going to be engaged, right? Because I figure if you have to pay for something, like the high-end coaches, like they're $2,000 a month, like the guys that are serious, like you're paying a lot of money for whatever, a half an hour a month to have a conversation with them, for them to basically say, show up and do what I said for you to do. If you don't do it, then you're wasting $2,000. So does that rule apply here, do you think, to some degree?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like it's all about the quality of the people that you have inside. You're going to, when you do the free model, you're going to have a lot of tire kickers, right? And that ends up happening inside Facebook groups as well. So typically what people kind of do is like, they'll take the gamification aspect of it. It's like, hey, if you don't get to level 2 in here, which is very, very easy, especially on school, it's 5 points. That means like 5 engagements, a like, a comment, a post, whatever the case may be. If you don't get up to that, you're out of this community, right? We kick you out, right? Because we want active people inside of here. We want action takers inside of here. And when you basically model it in that sense, then you kick out all the tire kickers and you have the highly engaged people that are going to be engaging with content that would more than likely progress up into your higher ticket stuff.
TikTok. Talk to me about taking people from TikTok into these groups.
That's not something that I've really done because TikTok's a really, really different platform when it comes down to it. It's very short form. I've ran ads for coaches and online educators on that particular platform, and it just doesn't do well. Like for instance, with Cardone, which is one of the guys that I was employed by, we ran ads for his real estate stuff. Never did well, right? Like if you're going on TikTok, it's more e-com, things like that. Now, other platforms may be a little bit more suitable, but I still think that Facebook is the main platform in order to get people from, something like, a platform into a community.
The reason why I asked that, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and we were talking about the fact that there's such a huge audience in there that's buying. Like, it's becoming the new Facebook, Amazon, right?
Correct.
Sorry, FBA.
Yeah.
And I've seen a few people, and I know of a few people who have pitched school through TikTok because they can do the TikTok live, right? And they can say, hey, join this group, make money online, blah, 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 right? My thought has been that I'm just wondering from a market level, and again, this isn't a right or wrong answer. I think where attention goes, right, is where the money goes. And I'm wondering is it just the fact that it's too early for the platform where it makes like less of a dent right now, similar to what happened to Facebook when Facebook was sort of like, I'm not running Facebook ads, Google ads are still running? Or is there something from a experience and end user level? And we're going to skip past this TikTok discussion after this, but I'm just wondering if you blanket party the entire infrastructure of Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and LinkedIn and Twitter and whatever. Like, does it really matter where they come from? Because to me, I think it's like you got to find the right avatar that wants to work with you, So that's why I was saying maybe it's just like the group pull. It's like just put enough content out that you get someone who's interested, and they'll kind of come in for 29 or 39 or whatever the low end dollar is, and then you group coach them or you do some other unlock, that they could do.
Yeah, and I mean, I treat every platform differently, right? Because there's a different kind of attention span, there's a different kind of content, there's a different kind of audience inside of each one. And usually what I've seen, like the leads and the people that come off of like a TikTok aren't usually the most qualified. They're lower end buyers. That's why like e-com does so well, because they're willing to pay the $27 or the $37 for a little gadget or something like that on there. In fact, my mother-in-law, like, I constantly get packages on my front door from her buying on TikTok all day long because they're so cheap. Isn't that
interesting?
But she wouldn't buy stuff like on Facebook or things like that, right? So every platform holds its own different audience, right? Like, you're going to get it's weird because Facebook is more of like, hey, this is my family and friends, I'm just looking at content, but you get more interactive buyers on there. YouTube is more like nurturing long form content, educational. So those kinds of people are on there. They're always looking for some kind of information. So different kind of offers work very well on YouTube. And X is definitely like a platform that people are like still exploring. But from what I've gotten from the reps, it's since it's more news centric, you have to have more relevant content when it comes to the ads there, right? So, and it is a little bit more of a communal place, but not in the same aspects as you would think like the people on Facebook are. So different places, different audiences. I just think as far as like TikTok is concerned, the lead quality is just not there. The attention span for those people are just not there, especially if that's their main platform of choice nowadays. Because like for me, like I do content on TikTok, but am I on TikTok? No, because I was once on TikTok and I would not leave the platform. Like, I'm wasting like 2 hours of my day just being on there, right? So I had to stop. But it's just a different crowd for each one. And personally, in my perspective, in the way that I kind of see things, and and from what I know as far as the knowledge that I know from TikTok, I just don't think that the crowd there is just suitable enough for a long-term play into a community.
Interesting. So now, so you've started communities, you're working with other people. It's sort of the business model du jour, which, this community building stuff has been around since the beginning of time.
Yep.
Can you give me an example of a success story that you've had recently?
Well, I mean, I actually had one basically. So there was a coaching program that I was working with, which was basically all strictly Meta. Like, we coach people on, the Meta platform. how to utilize meta ads and things like that. And school was basically our platform of choice in order to bring people in. And when we were doing that, basically we did the old model. We were doing the Facebook group, right?
Right.
Leading people into the Facebook group, everything like that, nurturing them there in the DMs, talking to the people, and then upselling them into the school community. And we were honestly making anywhere from 15 to 20K per month just utilizing that model.
Right.
Now, if we would have done things a little bit differently, we probably would have had a consistent monthly recurring revenue, which I was actually talking with, with the partner that I worked with on that just earlier today, and he totally agreed. It's like if we would have changed the model, we probably would have been way more profitable. But those are learning lessons that we had. But it was highly successful because the cool thing about it was is like we would get somebody in for a wine 97 mini course. They would see everything that was kind of going on. They're like, oh, okay, well, I see what's going on here. I see everybody's being coached. I see the results that are happening. All right, I want to pay $1,500 in order to get into your main coaching program.
Right.
So that was a great example of like what we did, and I wasn't as knowledgeable in school as I am now when we were first doing that play. Now, when I spoke to him, like, hey, man, we'll do a completely different play. We'll have a monthly recurring revenue attached to this, and we'll know where, we won't have to be like trying to get 20 clients, 30 clients every single month in order to bring them in, because we were only doing a one-time fee in order to get into the big coaching program.
Do you see monthly versus annual? Does that come up at all? Is there have you seen some movements towards one or the other? I know it's kind of interesting because the commitment layer is different. And, I'm just thinking for myself, like, okay, so let's say I went and ran a Facebook ad. Hey, join my group. I know everything about marketing, blah, blah, blah. Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they come in and then they get to the point where it's like, hey, you could pay whatever, $97 a month or $27 a month. Mm-hmm. Right. And the 27, I'm just making it, again, it's ridiculous, but okay, pay, $297 or whatever it is for the year, or 97 bucks a month. They're going to pick the year, and that keeps them there. So something like that, again, some ridiculous number, right?
Yeah. And that's literally what we did in that, because it was either $497 a month in order to get the coaching, or pay $1,500, which we had, at the time, it was literally a 9-month discount, right? So you pay for 3 months, because the thing is, what ended up truly happening anyways, and this is something that we saw, when they pay the $497 a month for the coaching, they stayed for 2 to 3 months max. After that, they were like, okay, I got everything I got, and you guys got me through the hurdle, it's cool. So when we said, hey, it's $1,500 for the year, they're like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Because realistically, they'll only really stay around for 3 months, and maybe they'll come in, one day, out of the month, or every 2 months or something like that. It's not a big deal. So that was a huge selling point for us, and that's how we were able to get to those kinds of numbers every single month, and doing it that strategy. Now, would I've changed that? Yeah, I probably would have. I probably would have done for a lower ticket monthly recurring revenue, and tried to make the community more sticky, because at that point, what we were doing is that we were keeping that particular school community as a hub, like a Kajabi. We weren't utilizing it the way it should have been. Now, if we switched it up and doing what we're doing, like what I'm doing right now, and trying to engage with everybody, building up the excitement, everything like that, and make it a sticky service, then that 197 could turn into a 12-month thing and have longevity inside of the community.
So what would you recommend to someone now? What would you say is the best opportunity to start with? Like where should someone start? Like, again, let's say they have a reasonably decent audience or whatever, or they have at least an email list or whatever, and they've had some experience. What would you tell them to do to, one, I mean, you could pick whatever platform, right? And this might be a now discussion because of the recent updates that High Levels had with their community structure with chats and so forth. What would you recommend to somebody today? And let's say platform agnostic, and then let's go into platform discussion as a last part of this.
Yeah, and I mean, and this is in whatever platform, right? Like, I honestly think if you have a good enough list, if you have a clear message of what you're working on and everything like that, if you're starting off and really don't have any dollars in order to really like push through and building a funnel and things like that, I would honestly do the hybrid model, like basically doing the free thing, having a few pieces of courses in there, and then trying to upsend them into anything additional after that you've nurtured them enough. And I think that that's a good way to bring in an existing customer base, get them, get a good enough, big enough audience inside of your community. And once you get there and you're already starting making a few sales here and there, then close it, make it actually like a paid community for people to be able to come in, right? So the first thing I would do is like do the hybrid model, get people in there, get them engaged, start having them go through your content, start helping people out, and then start sending them into something that's paid.
What content do you think is minimum viable at this point?
I mean, things like this, like podcasts, client calls, things like that. Maybe you've already done like a course. A lot of high ticket coaches, I know, already have a course pre-made. So it's just about chunking those courses up and dividing them up into consumable pieces. Definitely, if you're a copywriter, I've seen people just write stuff. It's nothing even a video concerned or anything like that. So there's a few different ways in order to do content, right? It could be stuff from your lives. Like you could be going like, you could just go live every single day. That's personally what I'm doing. I'm doing a 30-day challenge, right? You could go live every single day, teach on something, download that video, plop into your school community, and just have it as part of content so people could just start progressing in there.
So you just mentioned school community, right? And we did talk about high level stuff. We didn't talk about mighty networks or there's hundreds of community structures. Circles is a very popular one that's coming out, or that has come out, that's been on my radar screen. And I actually went through a process of selecting a community for one of my clients that needed to pick between different communities based off of what their requirements were. A little bit different because it wasn't so agency based or information related. It was more, they needed to do some medical stuff. But maybe tell me what you're seeing from your perspective on what's if people are loading into high level, and if, again, I hear different stories based off of where the communication is coming from, and those two are juggernauting. Certainly there are I've had WordPress communities before. The Zenforo, which is now another name, which is very popular, that's been around for a million. What do you think about community platforms?
I mean, the thing is like, I guess pick one that best suits you, right? If you're already somebody that's on Go High Level and already has all your products, all your courses already on there, it's just so much easier just to do a Go High Level community, right? Like, there's no reason for you to be able to get off the platform, especially since that's something that they just finished bringing onto the market and it's totally usable. Now, if you're using like other platforms, like school, maybe it's because you want to be able to start get to school games. That's something that you want to be able to start moving towards, right? And that's a very good leverage point, because I've seen a lot of people, still on GHO, but they're like, man, I just want to win on the school games. So they end up using school, and that gives them notoriety, that gets them next to Alex Hormozy and gets them the leverage that they need in order to build a bigger community. But I've worked for Brandon Turner, and his community was on Circle, and the reason that he did is because it was a little bit more customizable for what it was that he wanted to do on the particular platform, with how he was breaking certain things up, on how he was able to make pods for all his real estate investors, how the content was consumed and things like that, right? So every single platform has its perks, and I wouldn't single out any single platform. It just depends on what the person's needs are, right? And I'm very huge on that, right? Because usually a lot of times when, especially when I was in the web development, side of things, people will come to me and it's like, hey, I need to build a website. Okay, well, how do you need to build a website? What do you need to do on the website? How in depth do you need to make it? Because maybe it's something super basic that you could just get away with Squarespace. Maybe it needs to be a little bit more complex that you just need to go to WordPress. Oh, well, you want to be able to do e-com? Well, I mean, there's WooCommerce, but that's a little bit kind of finicky. So let's move you over to Shopify, right? So it just depends on whatever the person's needs are, is where I would recommend for them to be able to go.
Speaking of recommended where to go. You've got some leave offs here, I would think, that you want to chat about. You're doing a challenge, maybe
Yeah.
a couple of seconds about, maybe just 2 seconds about you, some stuff that people might want to know, and then where they should go to find more about you and the challenge you're running, and just maybe a leave off of what you might think is some sage advice.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as, my background, I've worked with some of the largest high ticket coaches around, one of them being Grant Cardone, another one being Brandon Turner. I kind of mentioned them a little bit previously. But I've also worked for some agencies, some SaaS companies, one of them being HL Pro Tools, and an agency called, Contractor Independence. And, working for all those companies, I always saw that there was a major hurdle when it came down to high ticket. And there was a lot of trust, like a lot of trust issues when it came down to it. And basically it's because like the market, people in the market have been hurt a lot. Like they've been put into programs, they haven't gotten results, they've been given false promises, and cost per book calls on video sales letter funnels has skyrocketed, and that's been a concern that every single company that I've worked for. So some of the things that I've kind of seen before this whole community movement has been happening, especially in the past 6 months, is switching everybody to low ticket funnels. And that's one of the things I did with HO Pro Tools, and another thing that I did with Brandon Turner. I took their video sales letter funnel and I fixed that, but then I ended up putting something low ticket at the very front in order for people to get nurtured into that. So thinking about that and thinking about where the industry is going, that's where my challenge kind of came from, is to be able to help these high ticket coaches and online educators that are struggling with trying to sell their high tickets upfront to a cold audience, and utilizing a low ticket community funnel so that they could still be able to get customers, paying customers, but nurture them inside of the community so that they could start selling their higher ticket products with much more ease and get much more customers coming in through the door. So as far as my challenge is concerned, it's literally building a low ticket community funnel inside a school. So we already finished day 1 and 2. Day 1 was literally explaining the whole, transition from the high ticket model to the low ticket community model, and why that's so important and the cost behind that. Day 2, which we just finished, is how to be able to build an irresistible offer based off of your current content, doing the copywriting for the landing pages, doing the copywriting for the video sales letter funnels that would be the leading front end for this. Tomorrow, we're actually going to be talking about actually building out the school community, like the about page, what videos you should use, the copy you should be using for that, the leaderboard, how to be able to set that up, the calendars, the discussion board, and the actual modules on how we would actually set everything up based on, how we presented the offer. On day 4, which is on Thursday, we're going to be basically building out the entire funnel. So building out the entire funnel inside Go High Level, building out the upsell, setting up all the workflows so like everybody gets onboarded into school automatically without any issues, and basically building that entire system. And then day 5, we're going to be talking about the fuel to the rocket that we just finished building, which is the ads that's going to fuel the low ticket offer, and then building up the engagement inside of the community so you could have a sticky service so people could stay in there for a very, very long time and be able to continually learn from you while you're there, so that you could build a residual income. So as far as the challenge, if you want to be able to check it out and see what we're kind of all about, you could go to communitysecretsexposed.com/challenge, and there you'll be able to opt in and be able to actually join the community and see exactly what we're doing in order to build it, because you're going to be seeing over our shoulders as we actually do it.
Perfect. Sage advice?
Man, stay consistent. One of the things I will tell you, and that's been a mistake on my end, is stay consistent. Stay consistent with one message. Stay consistent with what you're doing, whether it be on one platform or 2, because at the end of the day, you may not be getting the engagement that you think today, but tomorrow the engagement may go up. And it's all about making sure that you're in a position that people continue to see you. And one of the things that I constantly get asked is like, well, I just finished making that content a month ago. Well, do it again, because like only 10% of those people saw it. Maybe another different group of people are going to see it in the next month. So you got to be able to stay consistent, and don't get caught up on well, I already made that piece of content. No, do it again and do it again and do it again and do it again. Stay consistent and start being in front of people, start being loud so you can build your audience.
I have a phrase for that. I'll keep it for another episode. Thank you so much, Eddy. Anybody who's interested in the community strategy, please jump on Eddy's link, and we will catch him after this challenge at some point and see how things worked out for all of those people who participated. Thanks again for jumping on, and we'll catch you soon.
Thank you, Matt.